Welcome back in to No Man's Land Tennis. Joined with Freddie, Coach Freddie, getting ready for a big season, and Cole, who's been hook 'em horns and lately, baby. Put him up there, Cole. We know you've been living it down there in Texas. Dude, you're in the wrong orange whenever you send those fucking Snapchats to us. You're a Hokie and you're out there in UT orange hooking them up. What's going on,
Dude, McConaughey called me,
dude?
told me he was going to be in Novak's box this week and that he needed me to hold it down in Austin while the boys were out of town getting a dub up in Tuscaloosa. First win against Alabama and I don't know how long, and all of a sudden I'm going to start calling them hook 'em.
You've
And
been
you
on a
teach
yeah, you've been on a Texas high for the last few weeks. You were all over Peyton Stern the Open, and then Texas beating Bama. I mean, are you all in on when their Wyoming game this coming weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. I think McConaughey is coming back into town. I think we're going to have to switch places. So I'm going to have to go out to Serbia and support Novak in his Davis Cup match next week.
Fred had me absolutely rolling in the group text when during the final. He was like, did you teach Matthew McConaughey how to clap? Kate and I were like sitting there watching the match, and like Matthew McConaughey doesn't know how to fucking clap. He claps with like the back of his hand. Like
He's doing that Wolf of Wall Street thing.
That was the first
Yeah,
thing I thought of when I watched him clap. I'm like, what is this guy doing?
really didn't see that coming with him in the box.
that was wild. But that's what happens at the US Open. What an unbelievable second half of the week. If you didn't catch our first half of the week, go back and listen to us. And also, for some fun stuff, the boys have launched a YouTube channel. Go follow us on NML Tennis on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. It helps us out a lot. You can catch our podcast there, and we're going to start creating some content for you guys, which is going to be a lot of fun. I know Fred, Cole, and I have some great ideas for that. But second half of the US Open, we had everything from a ton of Americans in the tournament, which was a lot of fun, and a lot of them lived up to the hype for the most part. We have Coco Gauff coming in and getting firmly off of Cole's concern list, I think, now after winning the US Open. I'm never gonna let you live that down, dude.
I kind of slid out of that predicament I was in on my last episode. Nobody kind of came from my neck.
So we got her winning her first. We got Novak winning his 24th Grand Slam, which is a ridiculous ridiculous number just to come in with. But I think we got to start with the women's side because that was the first final of the week on Saturday, and it was a 3-setter. Not quite sure how great the tennis was, but we got an American winning a Grand Slam, and it always feels good.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think the tennis world, the sports world, and just America in general was really rallying around Coco Gauff. But like you said, I think the drama was there. It was 3 sets. She was playing Sabalenka, who's fiery. Instantly, for whatever reason, the crowd always kind of roots against her. I don't really get it because I actually kind of think she's likable. And her tennis, the way she plays, it's fiery. You should want to back it. But clearly, everyone, all 25,000 people watching that match were backing Coco. And so the atmosphere, the drama, all that was great. But the tennis, there was a split second in the third set where the tennis was pretty solid for about 4 games. But the first and second sets just weren't great. Coco's forehand was shaky. I think nerves a little bit. Neither of them served great. Sabalenka just, I don't know, would go for stretches where she just every first ball missed a forehand going for too much. And so I think that's eventually why Coco came out on top. And then I also just think in moments like that, if the crowd's really on your side and you've got 25,000 people plus about, I don't know, 10 million more watching at home, really pulling for you, that's what got her over the edge. So congrats to Coco. I mean, I was rooting for her all the way.
Yeah, I love always the best thing about slams for me is always the reactions after the last point. And Coco's is just iconic. Like she's just falls down, cries immediately. And so it's not only that, and then the post match interview is always good, even though they have a weird like structure of how they do it at the US Open. But she immediately started talking about her dad and how like they never see her dad cry. Her dad's like up there bawling. It's definitely a family affair for the Gauffs. Very, very cool to see it, and definitely deserved. And who'd have thought that Coco Gauff at 19 years old was going to win $3 million on this one odd Sunday. And for anybody that's coming for like the Pagulas and the Goffs that play multiple events during slams saying like, hey, don't play doubles and don't play mixed, like eat this. Here's some hardware for you.
I really think she would have, if they had won in dubs, she would have kept playing. She would have played both. And
Yeah, why
everyone's like,
not?
oh, she's young. She's 19. She can do it. Like, you can all do it. You're all in elite shape, especially on the women's side. Obviously, they're only playing best of 3, and the men have the best of 5. So I can see, I don't know, the argument with that. But when Vondrasova pulled out to like focus on singles, she pulled out of the doubles. I'm like, come on. It was your partner's last tournament, and you pulled out and retired. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I think the level of tennis, independent of all that, I think it's just very US Open sometimes. I just think it's the end of that year. We talked about this on the last podcast, but it's the end of the real, we'll call it like regular season of tennis. When the Grand Slams end, then we're kind of getting into the back end of the year for tennis. But these guys started 9 months ago. Like Australian Open's in January. They don't get more than a week off during the course of the year. They're grinding, and I think that's why you see players bubble over, and why you see racket slammed, and why you see people yelling at the crowds. I don't think it's all just the New York crowd. Don't get me, I don't think it helps sometimes, but I think just the frustration and the grind of a whole year just kind of eats at these players a little bit. We saw that a little bit with Sabalenka. She was, I mean, destroying rackets in the locker room after the match, which, by the way, anybody on tennis social media that's like, this is classless by Sabalenka, just do me a quick favor and just log off of every social media and don't talk to people about tennis ever again, because you're an idiot. I mean, it was just, she was off fucking camera. She thought she was off camera. She's in the goddamn locker room. She's as far away from center court as she could physically get. And you guys are still going to rag on her for slamming a racket. I think Sabalenka is incredibly likable. She's grown on me. I think there was a little bit like David and Goliath thing also too with that match, Fred, where it's like Sabalenka is just such a big, imposing human, and Coco Gauff is like this, like looks like a little tiny little fairy next to her. They're like, please don't hurt her. So I think you're kind of rooting for her in that regard too. Like, please don't hurt Coco Gauff. And I thought what Sabalenka said after the match was great. She joked about firing her entire team because all she does is yell at them during a match. Thought that was funny. She acknowledged the fact that she thought the fans were great and she understood why they were rooting for Coco and not for her. Like, she gets it. If the tournament was in Belarusia, they would have rooted for her and not for Coco. I think she gets it. But yeah, the women's side, it ended with a great champion for all of us. It's the champion we wanted. I think the tennis still could have been a little better. I do. I just wish it was just a little bit more drama and like great ball going out there at the end.
Yep. No, I agree. I think throughout the tournament, I think there was a lot of drama per se. I think there was a lot of 3-setters and a lot of back and forth. I mean, think about Coco's road. We talked about this in last week's pod. Like, halfway through the tournament, she was battling through 3-set matches. I watched her play in one. She really should have lost to Sigmund in the first round.
She should have.
And she went and won the tournament. But it just showed that I think just mentally she's in a much different place and was able to overcome sort of winning ugly. I mean, Brad Gilbert, he's in the box, winning ugly. That was, I think, kind of the motto of the tournament. I don't really think any of those anyone that made the quarters and beyond really played their best tennis. I think they all kind of, like you said, were late in the year. They just found a way to win at this time in the year. And so it's great.
And it's the same thing from the challenger side, the Sabalenka side, the second place side. Like, she had played keys in the round before, and she caught a nice New York bagel in the first set, and before you know it, she's a 6-love and 5-4 down, and has to figure it out, and she got through it. But it's just the ebbs and flows are just so much more drastic at this stage of the season.
A lot of bagels, Cole, and New York is a place to get some bagels. Cole, what do you put on a bagel when you're winning a match, baby? What do you put on a bagel?
I like a little everything bagel with a pistachio cream cheese schmear.
Well, this is how you know Cole is just elite. Like, just an elitist Cole Wernicke is what I'm calling you now. Pistachio. I didn't even know they made fucking pistachio cream cheese.
Me neither.
No, you just found out something new.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous. Pistachio cream
Yeah,
cheese.
it's a little nutty, but still goes down the same.
Oh my god. I don't even know what kind of ice cream order you get, man. This is terrifying. This is a scary thought right now.
That's an off-season question.
Do you think Cole, I gotta ask, were you rooting for Coco to lose just so you could be right about your concerned list, or were you rooting for her?
I wasn't concerned. What are you talking about?
Roll the tapes, boys.
Hey, you know what? Media is a real thing. Now she's won. I got all that hype. Well, she ought to live up to it in the next 4 or 5 years. Yeah,
Don't
no,
worry.
we're believers now. The
Cole's back in love
protesters
with
tried to
Coco.
get to her, couldn't break her.
Oh, what the fuck is that? I'm so tired of that. I hope that person's foot froze to the ground. But on another note, now we got to go to. It's done now. I think we got to finish this out. It's done. Novak Djokovic is the undisputed greatest of all time in tennis. It has got to happen at this point. It's got to be said, Cole. The dude has won his 24th Grand Slam, beating Daniil Medvedev in straight sets. He has won. He's been to the final of 36 of 72 Grand Slams that he's entered, which is 50%, Cole. I don't know if you can do that math. He has been to 47 semifinals. He passed Roger Federer in that. It looks easy for him all the time. He just keeps winning these matches. I don't know how he does it, but kudos to him. I was pulling for Medvedev, but it was inevitable that Djokovic was going to win this thing.
Unfortunately, I found myself kind of rooting for him again.
And
I
I
think
bet you did.
we've talked about this in the last few weeks. And I think I even said it at some point, I don't know, within the last several weeks, maybe after the Cincinnati match. But yeah, I've given into the argument. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time tennis player. He is. Cole's rolling his eyes. You can't see it, but it's true. But
where can you disagree now?
I mean, okay, number one, this wasn't discussed in the pre-show. Number
Doesn't
two,
need to be. It's right.
Statistically, he is the greatest player of all time. But I'm going to harp on the word continuously. I'm going to harp on it. Statistically is what I'm saying. Statistically, he is the greatest tennis player of all time. I will always reside with Roger Federer because of what he's done for the game. And it's like Tiger Woods making golf what it is. Federer made tennis what it is. But if you want to talk about trophies, which is what we are, then yeah, Djokovic is the man.
It couldn't even fit Federer on the ESPN graphic. They had a graphic of most Grand Slams. It couldn't fit him on. It was too much. It was too many people. It was Djokovic, Margaret Court, Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, Rafael Nadal. He's now 6. It's just sad. But I mean, it's just, you just watch a guy play all the time. And the worst part of it was that watching that final, which was 3 hours and 45 minutes, I think the longest straight sets win in Novak Djokovic's career from the research
in a major.
In a major. Yes, thank you, Freddie boy. That we've seen. He just keeps doing it. Like, I didn't even think Daniil Medvedev played poorly and he lost in straight sets. This is the second time this year we're talking about a Grand Slam where his opponent didn't play poorly and Djokovic won in straights. Just kind of waxed the floor with them. It looked relatively easy, other than him being gassed for a weird section of the match.
Yeah, I think if you really take a deep dive into the match, I was really honestly impressed with the way, yeah, like you said, both of them played. I think Medvedev played great, but I really expected, I don't know, typical Novak, be a backboard, counterpunch when you need to. But he was 37 of 44 points won at the net, 20 for 22 on serve and volleys.
Ridiculous.
That is an element of his game that I don't think is going to be talked about enough when looking back at this match. He volleyed as well as I've seen him volley, and that is 70% of the reason why he won this match.
I mean, watch the match, and don't get me wrong, I thought he did volley well. Other than a couple volleys, especially the one that he hit to save, I think it was set point in the second set where he hit that little half volley cross court, which was stunning on a really good return by Medvedev. I didn't think he volleyed anything special. I think it's just stylistically, all you kind of had to do was volley to the open court a lot of times with Medvedev because he's so far behind the baseline a lot of times. But it shows that Novak Djokovic it's why he's so good. He's willing to do something that he never had done. And that's probably why he hired Goran Ivanisevic a couple years ago, because that was part of his game that was missing, was being a volleyer. If you look at the coaches he's hired Goran and Becker, two guys that are really good volleyers and part of Novak's game that wasn't very good. And it's worked out for him really well. I agree that the net play was a big part. I thought the slice backhand was a big part for him.
Oh yeah, you didn't let me get there.
Oh, go ahead there, Eddie.
I'm kidding. But I agree. I think other than, I don't know, maybe a handful of volleys that were spectacular, everything was just simple and he executed it well. But I think that's why it stood out, because no one's been doing that except for Alcaraz a little bit recently, and Maxime Cressy and Isner when he was in a serve and volley move. Like, there isn't guys that have been doing this. And so I think the fact that guys are starting to realize, okay, if someone's going to drop 5 meters behind the baseline, serve and volley, make them come up with something. Medvedev hit 2 good returns.
Yep.
That was it. Like, Novak could have done it even more, and he didn't. And so I think that was fantastic. And then, the other point I was going to bring up, and I think you may have the stat for it, but I mean, he hit so many slice backhands, which is such a smart play. Medvedev loves some pace, and he loves to be able to kind of hit down on the ball or straight across the ball, hitting flat. And so being able to mix in that slice and make Medvedev actually have to come under and hit up on the ball a little more, it drew errors from Medvedev, but it also just kind of kept Novak in any point he wanted to be in, because he was never going to be under any pressure.
Yeah, I thought it was a big part of the game. I think Medvedev, and unlike any other player on the men's side, hits the ball closest to a WTA player from the ground. And before anybody jumps on me for that sentence, men and women on the ATP and WTA tour hit the ball within a mile an hour of each other. The biggest difference is just spin. Men tend to hit the ball with about 800 to maybe 1,000 more RPM of topspin on the ball than the general WTA player does. Again, this changes player to player, but that slice backhand made it so that Medvedev had to hit up on the ball a lot more, had to hit up and up and up, and that ball started sitting a little shorter. We always kind of watch Medvedev's ball. I call it a string. It looks like somebody pulled the table out from under it. It goes and then drops an inch in front of the line. It goes and then drops. It goes and then drops consistently. He couldn't do that as much. And I thought that kind of killed him in the match. And I thought his second serve return kind of killed him. He just kind of was neutral all the time, and he likes being neutral, but you can't be neutral against Novak. Novak's too good.
No, the 2 things he needed to try and do was, look to just really be aggressive more on second serve returns. And he needs to, I don't know, find a way. I would have loved to see him just slice back the slice.
Yep.
But he didn't use any slices. He just would get super low and just, like you said, hit up on the ball. And at some point, after doing it 3-4 times, you're not going to be able to hit as an effective shot.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. And it was good tennis for those 3 sets. I mean, the second set was unbelievable. An hour and 45 minutes. It was great tennis, and Medvedev had his chance. And it looked like Medvedev's way of getting Novak Djokovic to stop serving volleying and to get him to maybe hit a little bit more topspin backhands was just to make the rallies as long as possible, to the point where Djokovic looked like he was going to pass out. I actually did think Novak was tired during that. You saw him play some quick points to try to end it.
Fooled him again.
I think he was.
Well, he fooled you again, because he gave all of us another rope-a-dope moment. He just grinds these points out. All of a sudden, Medvedev wins this great deep point, and Medvedev's looking at him, almost gives him the double take, because he's like on the ground, all dramatic, huffing and puffing, looking at his box, and the umpire calls 30 all, and everyone's like, oh, this is a big chance here. And then all of a sudden, I think he just lulls Medvedev into this like false sense of like, oh, I've got him. I've got him. I'm going to do it again. And then all of a sudden, Djokovic wins that point, 40-30, bang, wins the game. I'm like, it's a rope-a-dope, man. He knows, dude, the whole third set, go watch the third set. He looked like the match just started.
Yeah. No, he needed the set breaker.
Every time. It's unbelievable. What is he inhaling? What is he eating? Or is it just pure like he got over the hump of getting that second set and you're riding that high. You're
That's
like,
what
yep,
it is.
I'm squashing this guy. Like, and he just does it. I don't know.
That's what it is. I think that's it more than anything. Because, I mean, I know what you're saying, Fred, but there was a couple points where Djokovic like stumbled over himself, which I can't stand because he does that like fake falling over thing when he hits a bad shot. Like his feet forgot how to work for 2 seconds of his life.
Rope-a-dope.
But then he played some dumb points after that where he just literally second ball hit as hard as he could, and they just happened to go in. But he was just swinging out of his shoes to kind of make it work for him.
Keith, I'm gonna make you a shirt saying "I got fooled by the rope-a-dope" with Djokovic laying on the ground.
Fool me. The words of George W. Bush: "You fool me once, shame on me. If you fool me twice, you can't fool me again." But he did. The man has fooled me a number of times. He's fooled me to 24 fucking Grand Slams.
Yeah. That's good though. I mean, I unfortunately missed the majority of this final, but I did see a lot of Medvedev's semi. And just hearing the serve and volley stats on Djokovic from you, Fred. I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast before back during Indian Wells in Miami. That's the way you beat Medvedev. So not only did he commit to the game plan, did his homework on the game plan, committed to the game plan. But, I don't think he is used to serving and volleying because, that grass court season is right before the hard courts. And those courts are really slow. So I just
God, we're not back to Cole's stupid slow grass court.
I just want to sort of stand up for Djokovic's decision making. Sort of took him all the way up to the final to really commit to that serve and volley, and I completely sympathize with why.
I think Djokovic is bored. I think it's like watching Federer in those 03, 04, 05 runs right now with Djokovic, is that he just gets bored. I think it's just every match is so easy. And then during the finals, he's like, okay, I'm playing somebody who's good. It's time to step it up and let's put the foot on the throat and get this match done with.
I got to watch it live. I got to watch him just rope-a-dope the crap out of me and go down. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm playing Laszlo. He's from my country. Let's
throw him a couple sets.
Let's get him a couple sets. Let's see what happens. He's like, yeah, I'll make it close. Level's pretty high. I'm going to act like I'm frustrated. Nope. 6-1, 6-1, 6-2. See ya.
Yeah, doesn't miss a ball for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. I feel like staying up late tonight. Yeah. Let's mess around.
I think he's bored. I mean, I think he's bored. And Medvedev deserves some love in this tournament. We talked about if he doesn't make a finals, it's been a bad year, and he made a final, and he played Djokovic pretty tough. And I loved his post-match interview where he was like, can you please fucking retire? I'm so done playing you. Please stop. He was like, I'm done with you. It's essentially his thing. He's a riot during the U.S. Open, and the more we get to see of Daniil Medvedev, the better tennis is, because he just makes tennis a lot more fun to watch.
He's the best post-match interview on the circuit right now.
I agree.
Djokovic even said that. He said, don't change. He goes, you're probably one of the most authentic guys on tour. Never change.
So I would like
keep doing what you're doing. But I think, Cole, you were talking a little earlier about those semis. I think let's talk a little bit about what got us to this point, right? I think semifinals, we had Shelton and Djokovic, maybe a little bit of bitterness or beef or something, but they both acknowledged it after. And I think it's great. And I think it's going to be great. I think it's great for the sport. Djokovic imitating Shelton's cell phone, put down, see basically no handshake at the end. Usually I expected they'd give a good little dap and he would have patted him on the back and be like, hey man, like awesome tournament, like excited to see what's coming up for you, man. Like you're 20 years old. This is awesome. And it just was like, I don't even know if they said a word. They literally just dapped and walked.
Both of them knew what was going on in that match. Both of them could feel the energy and the tenseness from the other side. And both of them handled it like absolute legends in the press conference. Like both of them were like, yeah, it is what it is. And he's like, yeah, I like the celebrations. I did it. but neither one of them were like, oh, my feelings are hurt. You know what I mean? Like it's just they kept it moving. They're athletes and they're at the highest stage. And I mean, I'd like to see Ben. I mean, you got a potential like Laver Cup matchup. I mean, Raj is gonna be there. The guy that wasn't even on the image. Guy doesn't even. We don't even think Roger Federer plays tennis anymore, but apparently at ESPN. But he'll be at the Laver Cup, and hopefully, Ben Shelton and Djokovic can lace it up. Oh man, I don't know if Djokovic is playing this year, but maybe he'll go.
Most shocking thing to me about that entire thing was that I was generationally, I really thought Ben Shelton was going to do the phone like this, like how kids do the phone and like making like a square, like out of their hand. Like, like being the older millennial of the group, like, I still do the finger. I still do the thumb and the finger. I thought for sure Ben Shelton would be like a brick in his hand and throwing it down. Like kids like 18 years old. Like I thought for sure he'd be bricking it down, but now he went old school. And I love that celebration. And again, I don't always pull for Novak Djokovic, but the fact that he did it right on match point and just quickly picked it up and put it down, like shut the hell up. You're done, son. Get out of here. Like, that's it. Novak, peace. I'm off to go hang out with my crystals. Like that's what it was. It was perfect.
Yeah, but Ben was saying on a shot that like he didn't like that one. Ooh, he didn't like that one. And then he was like pointing to the noggin. So of course Ben just took his cake and went home, or took his ball and went home in the press. Like you can't say anything. Like you just can't say anything if you were the initiator. So and they handled it perfectly.
We need this in tennis. Give me this.
Awesome.
Give me the
It's
trash
awesome.
talk. I'm here for it.
nothing.
I just picture Kyrgios sitting there like, fuck, this is good.
But nothing crossed the line.
No.
It was super high intense, pretty creative, and stayed kind of in bounds per se. So I think it was awesome. But how about the other semis? What do you guys think? I mean, obviously Medvedev, maybe like, I don't know, a lot of seeds lost early, but this kind of on paper could have been the biggest upset of the tournament. I think everyone was hoping and honestly predicting that we were going to see Djokovic Alcaraz again, and Medvedev with an awesome upset.
It's the best win I've ever seen from Medvedev. Sorry,
Wow.
Cole, but that's the best win. I think he played better than he did when he beat Joker in straight sets at the U.S. Open a few years ago. Because Djokovic played poorly in that match, but that match against Alcaraz, I thought, and I've said this a couple times on this podcast and was dead wrong, that it's stylistically the worst matchup out of top players I've ever seen. I just never thought Medvedev would have a chance to really ever win anything off of him. And not only that, he beat him kind of routinely. Like he just hit, pass through, around. He did everything through him.
Well, he changed his style just enough to be able to counteract it. And I think Alcaraz played fine. I don't think he played 10 out of 10, but I also don't think he played 4 out of 10. I think he played a pretty solid match. And if Medvedev plays normal, I think Alcaraz probably wins. But Medvedev knew what it was going to have to take and took the risk and stepped up to the plate, and he did it. And I don't think anyone on this call thought he could do that. And I don't think anyone listening to this podcast thought he could do it.
Okay, couple things. There's definitely somebody on this call who thought he could win that match, and that was me. I said it in the group message before the match started. Second thing is, Alcaraz played very well other than volleying. Credit to Medvedev for making him hit the low shots, like coming in, because like everyone's going to try and beat him that way, right? Medvedev's playing, he's returning from Jerusalem. He's returning from all the way across the freaking ocean. And then Cahill and Brad Gilbert are like, look at him take 2 steps to the right on the serve here, and like just hit T once. Hit T once. Every serve he's hitting is body or out wide, cross court, and then you're playing game. And Medvedev just rose to the occasion. And I saw that shit. Don't come in here and throw me in that. Don't say like all 3 of us didn't have a clue. I picked Medvedev to win that match.
You didn't say it on the pod last week.
We didn't know that match was going to be played.
We all knew that was coming. Come on.
I was
I'll
just
give
giving you a little rope a dope.
I'll give Cole's is a little bit of credit right there, just because we how wrong he was on Coco. I'll give him that one.
I just think Alcaraz got a little tight, and like I don't know if you guys saw the last game of that match, but it was like a 10-minute game, and
Yeah.
Medvedev kept saving it and then getting it back on ad and then going to deuce again. He just kept dealing with it.
Well, those couple days of tennis, how well Medvedev played, those couple days of tennis, I almost forgot about that because the Sinner. I mean, I'm going to go back a little bit more. The Sinner Zverev match was just stupid. It was so good. And that was right before that. I mean, that was sick. That match was unbelievable to watch. It was 4 hours and 50 minutes of just two guys hitting the hell out of the ball. I mean, listening to Zverev's grunt for 4 hours and 40 minutes, I deserve a medal for that. Just to let you know, it's a little painful to kind of get through.
Bad.
It's a little painful to get something about it. Just doesn't hit the ear right. But that match was stupid. And yeah, the tennis in the last couple days for the men's side was just out of this world.
Yep. No, awesome. And I think the biggest thing from the Sinner Zverev match that stood out to me was, like you said, they just kept going at it for so long. And Sinner's cramping, and most guys would have maybe thrown in the towel or really kind of milked it. And he would just go back up to the line and get right back to just absolutely murdering the ball. There was no let up, no matter what was happening. Salt tablets going down. I mean, you name it. It was great. So that was, for me, I would say, match of the tournament. I think level wise and drama wise, it just was such a good matchup. I couldn't take my eyes off. I needed to go to bed, and I stayed up 2 extra hours to keep watching.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about Sinner that we have to. I mean, he seems like he works hard. I mean, there's videos of him with Cahill working hard and that kind of stuff. But I think this is 5 consecutive 4-hour matches that he's lost at a Grand Slam, and not all of them are against big players. Now, a couple of them are against Zverev and Tsitsipas, but one's against Altmaier on clay. I just think those little Bambi legs, we gotta bulk him up a little bit, because he seems to just, either it's the variety of his game or something is just causing him to lose these matches. It's just something's a little off.
Yeah, I mean, he's walking on court with that Gucci bag. I think we need to get some Carhartt. We need to buff
Delco it up.
We need to buff it up a little bit. Yeah. And,
Delco it up.
Yeah. Carhartt. Come on. You get stronger in there, Yannick. But like I said last week, and my pre-condolences have now become condolences for the Kuroda boys. It was inevitable. So apologies.
Yeah, I think physically maybe a little bit, but I almost think at this point it's even kind of like Rublev, isn't he? Like 0-8 in slam quarterfinals. I think Sinner's borderline at that point where when you get that deep in a match, some of it's mental, and he just needs to get one of those to kind of, I think, get over the hump. But I also really like what you said there, Keith. I think the variety in his game, I think we're starting to see more of it. And I think the more he continues to work with Cahill, I think it will help. But I think, to me, that's where it lacks a bit more so than physically. I think all these guys are in pretty good shape, and except maybe Jack Draper, sorry.
Hey.
That's like a stray out of left field, but every time
just complete whack at Jack.
Yeah, but every time that guy plays anything longer than, like, I don't know,
2.5 hours. You're right.
2 hours with rallies more than 6 balls, and the guy's toast.
Jack's very, very Djokovic 2005-ish right now.
I need trainer.
He's English.
No, that was one of my old coaches would imitate Djokovic, saying he did the best joke. Because remember when Djokovic would do the imitations of everyone else? Yeah. My coach did an imitation of Djokovic, and he's like, "Oh, please, I can't breathe. Oh, my ear, my neck, my back. I need trainer." But yeah, I don't think it's physical for Sinner. I think a lot of it's mental, and then I think a lot of it's tactical, and I think he's hopefully going to keep developing.
Fred, as I mean, the thing that I like most about your game, and that's a weird place to go to with this, is that you have that variety in your game. You chip backhands, you come to the net a lot more often. I think, truthfully, what would kill Sinner in that, and maybe the difference between him and maybe why, like, a guy like Federer, whose legs were about that wide too, by the way. Federer wasn't exactly like built like He-Man, is that if you're just consistently bashing the ball as hard as you can, like backhands and forehands and swinging out of your shoes, I think it just exerts more energy just consistently. I think he's just consistently pumping out more energy than anybody else that he's playing against. And if you start getting into rallies, what Zverev was doing a little bit, and you're consistently swinging harder, I think it just wears you down a little quicker. I think it's just that little bit at the end is going to kill you.
Yeah, and I think it forces the other guy. Like the other guy can kind of just use your pace, and
Yeah.
so you're the one generating everything. But I also think he sometimes can just play into some rhythm. But there was, I should have pulled it up, but there was a stat that someone said during that match that Cahill is trying to get him to hit some more backhand slices. And it's actually starting to look a little more natural, but they showed some video of him hitting some before, and it just looks so unnatural because I think he's just so used to moving over, being in perfect position, and just crushing a backhand, moving over and crushing a forehand. And so I think he's starting to realize there's times where you need to change the shape of the ball, the style, like the way you're hitting the ball, whether you're going slice, whether you're going high and heavy, or driving through it, instead of just letting a guy sit on the same plane of the court and move side to side to basically just do the butterfly drill while you crush balls.
Yeah, because I see a lot of, I think he'll plateau if he doesn't. I see a lot of like Davydenko in his game.
Yep.
Of just somebody that just like hits the ball really hard and that's it. And is really clean, is really fun to watch. But unless you learn something, Agassi kind of had the same problem for a while as well. Unless you learn something or do something even better than somebody else, he's going to struggle. But boy, was the men's side of that tournament just a blast to watch.
Oh yeah. If you couldn't tell by the way we were talking about it, I mean, it was awesome. Awesome 2 weeks. Awesome second half of the week.
Yeah. Second half of the week is one of the better is one of the best moments in sports. I think also now we had a great week in sports. You had football starting, you have baseball winding down, you have all the rumors going on with soccer and that kind of stuff. And then you have the US Open, which is a blast. And I think it left in a great place with Coco claiming her first, Djokovic putting himself on the pedestal of the greatest of all time. And I think he's already there, even though Cole doesn't. And it's a great place to be for the sport. And it's a great place to leave we'll call it the regular season of tennis. Cause now we get into postseason tennis, which is still fun. But before we go there, we got to go to this week's episode or this week's segment of Cole's Concerned List.
Wow. What a clean intro. Boys, gonna be very different. Some different takers on this list than last week. Some people just not even on the list anymore. First, we're going to start with Madison Keys. Number 1.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. I love Madison.
I'm going to pose this question. Is this the best result she's going to give you at a slam in the rest of her career? Semifinal, 3-set loss.
The match she should have won. Yes.
Yep.
That hurts.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Madison, tough, but you know what?
Madison, sorry about your career. It's done now, apparently.
We're I'm still rooting for you, man, but that's brutal. Second is going to be Celsius, the energy drink. I have no idea how they're going to get any more sponsorship or brand recognition in the next tennis tournaments that are up on the circuit this year. All the players they had, I mean, they're never going to get that amount of publicity. So we'll have to wait another year for a nice, brand launch for them.
Cole, I did notice that sponsorship a lot. And I remember when I was teaching tennis, I used to drink a lot of Celsius. And I thought that was just kind of funny moment. I mentioned that to Kate. I was like, that's what I drank like once a day during like a lunch break was a Celsius.
I mean, they had like 10 players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
minimum.
like,
minimum.
What were they giving out? Like a year's supply, couple grand? Like I'll give you a year's supply of t-shirts if somebody wants to hop on the No Man's Land sponsorship patch. Like, come on. Next up, ESPN broadcasters.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into this for a couple seconds there.
Let me say my 2 things on this. 1, they weren't great, and 2, ESPN's been making a lot of company-wide cuts in the past 2 to 3 years. I don't think those guys are safe.
They deserve some flack for this. I mean, John McEnroe was he was sick for half of it. Yeah, he was sick for half the tournament, which, by the way, bit of irony for all this. I saw this, that Novak Djokovic did get the Moderna shot of the tournament as somebody who was anti-vaxxed, which I thought was kind of funny too, if anybody noticed that. But John McEnroe, like, didn't know the difference between paints on the tennis court, didn't get why a ball would skid off the line, which was just the dumbest thing I've ever heard of somebody who's played tennis for his entire life. Like, everybody gets why that happens if you played tennis for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah,
For
it
that
was. Yeah, it wasn't great. I think Chris Fowler actually did an awesome job, and he's the one non-tennis person on the call, which I guess is why he's there, because he's kind of covering all sports, and that's just typically what they do on these play-by-play stuff. But yeah, I was a little disappointed because usually I usually give ESPN a 9 or a 10 out of 10 every time for the Oz Open, for Wimbledon, for the US Open. The French is the only one they don't cover, and they do a great job usually with the other three. And for whatever reason, I don't know if they were trying too hard this year or what, but something was just off, and I can't really pinpoint what it was, but I don't know. I give it like a 5.5 out of 10.
Spread too thin. You had two guys who were coaching players in the back end of tournaments. I think that, and you miss Cahill, you miss Gilbert, and then it's Chris Fowler trying to pull the McEnroe brothers' thoughts into one coherent sentence, which is, God, that's like watching A Beautiful Mind with all the strings looped around all over the place. So yeah, God bless Chris Fowler for keeping that shit show together.
Maybe they need some new guys. I saw Gimelstob in Isner's box. Who knows?
I don't think
Anyway.
Gimelstob is going to get on TV anytime soon there, Cole.
Nope.
No. And I hope I never see him again. The dick.
That was a joke. Number 4, Evian, the water supply. Specifically the French Alps. I think they're just going to run out of water with how much heat was going on in New York these past 2 weeks. I mean, did you see Rublev and Medvedev? 2 hours. Probably consumed like 30 bottles apiece. Like, there's probably no product for all of France.
I'm waiting for the next one to be on this. Is like Cole's like global warming is the big problem because it was really too hot for part of this tournament. Like, I'm waiting for that.
Look, we'll leave it at that. But like, anybody who has stock in Evian right now, it's probably a good time to get out because there's no water left. And then the last one, as Charles Barkley says, 1, 2, 3, Cancun. World Tour Finals going to Cancun. And I'm concerned simply because I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, no idea.
Well, we're gonna be flying. We're gonna be flying you down there, Cole. So you better get ready to know what you're gonna expect, because you're going to Cancun, NML tennis
Cole?
at the
Cancun Cole?
at the Wernicke Tour Finals.
Cancun Cole.
Coley.
There's just so much opportunity for things to go amazing or to go poorly. So we will see.
I can't wait for you and Ted Cruz to be watching a match together. This is going to be the best thing of all time.
Me and old Ted.
Well, I think real quick before we finish up, I just want to touch on a couple results from some friends of the pod that are out on tour. Quick shout out to Pat Harper, who we've had on the podcast. He just won a 25K out in France. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce the name of the city that it was in, but him and his oh, you want to try?
No.
No, but him and his partner Mark Wallner, who is also a Tennessee Volunteer, won the title 10-7 in the third in the final. So shout out Pat, well inside the top 700 in the world now. Also shout out to Henry Barrett, who has been on the podcast in the past, another friend of the pod. Him and Brian Battistone, which is a throwback of a name. If anyone doesn't know who Battistone is, he's the guy who uses a double-handed racket with basically a beach volleyball serve. Fantastic to watch. But Henry picked up an awesome win. He was also over in Europe, so shout out to Henry for that great win. Caroline Dolhide, other friend of the pod, had a tough go at it at the U.S. Open, lost a near 3-hour doubles match to Sigmund and Zvonareva, who ended up making the women's doubles final. And now she's in San Diego in a rain delay right now, waiting to get out on court. So good luck, Caroline, this week, and good luck to all friends of the No Man's Land Tennis podcast.
And as always, check us out on Instagram, Spotify, Apple, TikTok, YouTube. It's all NML tennis in some way. We will be keeping you guys up to date with tennis throughout the entire week. And as always, gentlemen and ladies, swing a big stick.